was a typo. And I'm like, welcome to Under Two Capes. I'm Jared, and today we are discussing the character of Jon Kent and who is to blame for his current, staleness. I'm going to say at least his staleness. And I'm here with Robert Willing. What's up, brother?
Not too bad. I got to ask, what was that statement you keep saying at the end of that intro? Because the last verse you had was a bit funnier, more cut off. This one kind of lingers.
Oh, you mean in the intro? No, that was because so when we were doing Super Wonder Legacy, one of the points was we really liked Diana's body design for like the characters. So someone said Diana's body T. So I texted Britt and I'm like, I thought that was a typo. What is that?
All right. Again, I was just curious because
it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, because it's a little awkward. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And what's up, Tabby? What's up, Cameron? So Cameron says, yeah, the second one 100%. I think it's more of like maybe half and half, but we'll see. So let's talk about this. So Jon Kent was created in technically Convergence, but his current actually no, he was during the new 52 when you think about it.
No, that different version, completely different version. If you're going with the one I think you're talking about.
No. When Superman and Lois showed up in the new 52 Earth.
I thought you were going to be talking about the Superboy that replaced Connor in Teen Titans.
No, not that one. Not that one.
Yeah, because technically that would be DCU.
Yeah, and Tavia, yeah, I know he showed up in Convergence, but I'm just saying in main continuity,
they were parallel. They were parallel.
Yeah. So Superman is so Jon is the son of Superman and perpetual stick in the mud Lois Lane. You're in my channel, brother. So
I know.
And the thing about it is, while I hate the character, but I am going to say, at the very least,
she's a good mom.
They did something new with Superman, and they made him a son. So hey, what's up, NJ? And look how destroyed Jon Kent. Yeah, exactly. And then Jon Kent.
I disagree.
I disagree. Wait, hang on. I disagree on that, but we'll get into that later. Every potential fix or take it in a better direction is always ruined.
No.
It really depends. So now here's the thing. Which is, again, what I want to say is it's not like the character is an entirely it's not like it was a bad idea. It's just the problem is, as often happens with editorial and such, whenever they do this, they kind of subsequent writers will not live up to the potential of this, because again, it's cool that it does. Yeah, Ben just happened. Whoa. Thank you, NJ. I have to play the clip now, NJ. This is your fault, NJ.
Why did you say that name?
So that happened.
I will agree with Tevye, though. I will agree when we get to that.
In Rebirth,
two people we can say are not to blame are his creator, Jurgens, and the person who truly fleshed him out, Tomasi.
Yeah, they're not at fault for that. Trust me, there are some stuff that they're at fault with when it comes to DC Comics, but not that. So, he was one of the leads in Superman Rebirth, and then you had Superman, and then you had what's the word?
Reborn? Superman Reborn?
Yeah, they had Superman Reborn where he was almost retconned out, but what they did is they made it so they can merge new 52 Superman and Rebirth Superman, because they established that they were split, and I don't remember that happening in with Manhattan.
Yep, sorry, I didn't mean to blurt that out. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. I mean, look at what they did to me. First off, he's not your boy. They could have had Earth 3. No, they can't do that, Nemo, because if they do that, then because Earth 3 is inherently evil, they would then be saying that being bisexual is inherently evil, and DC's not going to deal with that PR headache.
Exactly.
That's why it can't be that this is John from like another like Earth or anything like that.
No,
but anyway,
no.
So then He Must Not Be Named was hinted at coming to DC, and as part of his contract,
complete editorial freedom.
He was able to do whatever he wanted with Superman, which in hindsight is literally the stupidest contract you could have done for.
Oh yeah, way too expensive. It was stupid amount of money because obviously they wanted to earn him over. And yeah, they were banking on him to do what he did for Marvel. But here's the thing: he was already burning out. In fact, part of the reason why he stepped away is because he had a near. I think he might have had a heart attack or something beforehand.
Yeah, he
had a health scare.
Yeah. Honestly, Superman having a blood son is so cliche. Again, either Chris or having a child created. I don't look like a kid created by Brainiac. Technically, it was hinted with the split for both Superman doing DC Rebirth #1. Yeah, but I'm saying it still doesn't make sense, Tevye. That's the lesson I'm trying to get apart here. And I still wonder why they hired He Must Not Be Named. I almost said it. It doesn't count for DC. No, it was because at the time he was like this big comic book writer.
He was leaving Marvel, so they wanted to bring him over, hoping he can work his magic.
Yeah, exactly. And again, for a certain point of view, he kind of did, but then it just fell apart. But more about how he was abused, the moral of how to overcome abusers. Yeah, well, even on that. So then, okay, at the end of Man of Steel, the mini series that He Must Not Be Named wrote, that it was basically the introduction of a Superman run. John leaves with Jor-El, who, yes, is alive.
Well, that was something that was a setup. And that wasn't even Jurgens' idea. He did stuff with it, but it was more still Jeff Johns' initial idea.
Still stupid.
I know. He set up Mr. Z during his New 52 run.
Yeah, exactly. So then what you get is, okay, so John comes back later, and he is aged up. Let's see, he was 10 when he left, so I would say 17.
Thereabouts. Although, why did he have a porno collection? Remember, there was that one bit where he's like, Mom, well, I'm gone. If there's something in that magazine, don't look at him. In fact, no, forget about it. Don't even look in there. Runs in, comes back, you see a little bit of smoke saying, never mind, it's dealt with. What else could I assume that to be?
Because, of course, he's a teenager. He has to have this. Because yeah, I agree with Darius here. Aging John up was the moment the concept went off the rails for him. Yeah, exactly. Because what that eventually led to is, okay, so you have
the reason why. Here's the reason why. He wanted him to be part of the Legion.
Yeah.
And yet he also wanted Connor to come back too. Both of those were Bendis' pushes.
And here's the other thing. This is the part that a lot of fans don't want to admit, is that at a certain point, the sales for Super Sons and Jon Kent as a kid had stagnated. So DC wanted, because if the sales were way better than they were, like, I don't want to say
they weren't bottom of the barrel either.
No, but they were still like stagnated, and DC wanted a boost. What I'm saying is, if DC had, if it had sold much better, like ridiculous levels, they would have, when He Must Not Be Named left, had him de-age John.
That's true. That's true. But I think by the time he was leaving is when Tom Taylor started did his pitch.
No, but I know, but I think DC would have asked Taylor, hey, can you go ahead and de-age John?
True.
But my point is, it's partly because he didn't sell. So then what that leads to is they're like, okay, you know what? He's aged up. Let's see what we can do with this. Then Taylor comes on and writes Superman, Son of Kal-El. And what that essentially is, so in the PKJ run for Superman, Clark goes to War World to fight. And is it really in character for Ultimate to torture a kid in lava? Is he that? Yes. Yes, he is.
Ultraman
Yes.
is that bad. That is very much in character for Ultraman, especially
yes, he is.
that version.
Yeah, exactly. So, Jon takes over as Superman, as the Superman of Earth.
Which worked.
That and I remember saying at the time, I was like, okay, this is actually a cool thing. This is when a mantle swap works. Because guess what? Yeah, he's away. You still want to have a Superman on Earth, and it makes logical sense that Clark would have his son take over.
Exactly, especially because he got aged up.
Yeah, exactly. So he's of that age. So then you get, so where am I? Oh yeah. So then Tom Taylor does the thing that really solidified Jon Kent as the adult.
He made him bi. Yep.
He made him bisexual, which partly of that is, yeah, exactly. And the reason why that does that is because now, well, here's the thing. It wasn't just that made it so Jon can never be de-aged. It was a lot of other factors. And actually, I think like PKJ and Tomasi addressed this. The thing about it is, so Jon has many more fans than he had now as a kid. Number one.
Yep.
Number two, he's been an adult longer than he's been a kid.
Well,
Number three,
now he has.
Yeah. Number three, they gave him an animated movie, as a matter of fact, and if that animated movie exploded, they would have de-aged him, but they didn't. So then number four, it's like, if you de-age Jon, you are then taking away the fans that hopped on maybe because he's bisexual. Number five, here's why DC from a business perspective shouldn't. Because if they do, the conversation then flips to, is he going to be bi in the future? And then if he's 10 years old, you're talking about the sexuality of a 10-year-old.
Yep, it's bad enough that Saturn Girl basically had had a big crush on him, and then basically altered his mind and influenced the others just so she could have a thing with him.
Yeah, exactly. So the only problem is that Jon went to its age that was treated as the invincible of DC.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Why wouldn't you say it didn't work? Please let me complete the comment.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
But no, it's all good. But
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was say, now, had it just been Taylor's book and not Dark Crisis, maybe he might have had a point.
Yeah, the thing is, so that's a good transition. So what DC did next is they did Justice League issue 75, where they killed the Justice League. And I'm using air quotes for those of you listening to this on audio, because I say kill because they didn't really kill them. They just teleported them.
Which was obvious.
Yeah, it was very. I knew they weren't actually dead. I even called it that they were teleported to an alternate world. Anyway,
yeah, can you see him redo the Flash disappearing montage?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, yeah, I've seen this before in a good way. But so what they did is they had Jon reform a Justice League, which honestly, it was one of my favorite parts of Dark Crisis is when he presents his league to Black Adam, and Black Adam is like, why do you need two Kryptonians? Why is Blue Beetle on here? He looks at Harley Quinn. You're a criminal. So
how old are you?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like he's the fans telling this is a stupid Justice League. By the way,
Dr. Light actually led the Justice League at one point.
Yeah, do you like Jon and Yara Floyd? I personally love the dynamic in Future in which as
friends.
I still have to read that book, so I'm not going to weigh in on that yet. NJ, I will weigh in on that. I'll tell you what. After I read it, I'll talk about it on the next stream. But from what I heard, it was interesting. Anyway,
it was interesting. Yes,
we tolerate him, Julian. So what happened? So Jon takes over as Justice League. Now, this is the moment that mainstream sealed Jon. Now, it's the moment when he doesn't know that the Justice League is coming back. All he knows is that my dad's dead. So he's facing off against all these villains like Doomsday and such. And then he essentially is doing a last stand to buy the hero's time. And it looks like he's going to die. And he goes, Dad, I hope I did you proud. And then obviously Superman comes back. He catches Doomsday's fist. And I'm like, that is so badass.
That reminds me of when the two Supermen attacked Doomsday during Infinite Crisis.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's what Williamson was referencing.
Yep. And by the way, Nemo, created equal, completely different character.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, so here's the interesting thing. A Twitter user by Sir Lady, a friend of mine from the Wonder Woman fandom, says aging up Jon Kent was a mistake. If they wanted a new Superman, Khan is still there. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. So what you get here, and here's the problem with this. It's like when people critique, like say, oh, no one likes Jon as an adult, they forget this moment because, Robert, you and I know this because we had relatively just met at this point.
Yep.
And I hated Jon as a character, period. I just want to be clear on this.
Right.
That moment sold me on him as a character. That's why I say read that issue of Dark Crisis. It's like Jon's Last Stand. I forget what number issue it is. I'll actually look that up for you guys. Read that issue. I think it'll make you a little bit more of a thing. Okay, he is a Superman. And even Black Adam at the end of the battle is like, your son did well. So I'm like, okay, that was actually really cool.
By the way, the fact that Dr. Light got a power upgrade and was the main person to save the day, one of the people that saved the day, shows that Jon was right to bring her on.
Yeah, I think it was Dark Crisis number 7.
Yep,
so
last issue.
And then Nemo said, did DC really have a plan for Jon Kent? Was it just fan service? It seemed like they had a plan, but that plan got derailed by He Who Must Not Be Named. That's what I think.
And Nemo, no, that is not a good Super Wonder moment. That whole book is a atrocious book.
What's JLA created equal?
Like he said, it's Why the Last Man, but Superman.
Oh, yeah, that's horrible. Yeah, that's horrible.
The fact is, these kids, except for the Jon XP and Power Girl's daughter, the only one that actually had someone that wasn't a son, all the others are just stock, generic copies of each other. They don't even have any personality whatsoever.
Yeah. So let's not. Yeah, exactly. But so essentially, that's the issue here. Now, after this, they and up until now, really, I mean, they've tried to do some cool stuff with Jon, like in Absolute Power. He gets taken over by Brainiac. Which I thought that was
he was the main folk. They say Nightwing, but not really. But he and Dreamer were definitely the two main focals.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, they haven't really done anything with the character of late, if you notice.
Except for what's going on currently.
Which that's why anyone that's a fan of Jon Kent should. I get that you guys want him to be aged up, but the problem is, at least he's being featured in prominent storylines.
Yep, and say what you will, him being part of the Pride stuff, he's prominent there.
Yeah. Now, here's what I want to do about it. And now Jon has lost more than ever. He's totally misplaced on that. I disagree on that, MJ. But let me talk about this, because Robert and I were talking about this before we went live. All right, let's compare him to Trinity, because it's a similar concept. Here's the thing about Jon. He showed up, even I'll admit, he was a sweetheart.
Yeah, I was saying, Jon is closer. If you look at Damian, Jon, and Trinity, he's closer to Damian.
Yeah,
as here's far the as thing. Being well handled. Actually, no, I say this. Jon had a better starting than Damian.
Jon had a definite better starting point, because I remember because I read the beginning of Grant Morrison's Batman, and when I was reading it, I was like, yeah, I get why people didn't like him at first.
No one really liked him until other writers started getting involved. And
exactly.
Batman and Robin.
But here's the thing. From the start, you didn't have Jon punching Clark in the face or talking about what a toxic parent he is. If King had written Trinity, like let's say Tomasi wrote Jon, or even Jurgens wrote Jon, you would not have the hate you have now for Trinity at all.
Exactly.
There would not be even a remote portion, that there would not even be a second hashtag, because I'll be like, okay, you know what he's doing, this is just something cool. I mean, you would still have people saying, why is the origin linked to Steve and such? But still, you wouldn't have as violent of a reaction from the get-go.
Oh, yeah, because they would be a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like, even if our first introduction of Trinity from the first issue was not like that, like, the first introduction you see her is that she shows up, she's late, but then she goes, I'm sorry I was late. I was dealing with like all these gods and stuff. If she had said, I'm sorry I'm late.
Yeah, I could say, I'm sorry I'm late, but I would say like this, like, oh, sorry I'm late, but I was dealing, take it up, but make it more sarcastic.
She could go, sorry I'm late, but I ran into some friends on the way here. Something like that.
Something like that. Or even, or again, he's like, oh, sorry I'm late. I could have just left them there to destroy the city, and then you guys would have just had to deal with it.
That works.
You say this, then you guys would have been late.
All right, there you go. I like that. But even beyond that,
in the face.
Even beyond that, then you get to the other, like, the other dialogue portions where she's like, okay, so which challenge do you want? Strength, bravery, or cunning, or whatever? Or I could just do all three for you. And I'm like, shut up. I'm just like, stop. That's the thing. You immediately are turned off by his character. Where with Jon, from his debut, even when I first saw him in the New 52, he was not a product of it, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know. During that mini, he was all like, he was tough. He didn't even have his powers yet.
Or it's like, even when he did have his powers, I was like, okay, I'm digging this. This looks very interesting. But it just like fell. It's just. But that's the thing. That's why you have a legion of Jon fans.
Exactly.
But whereas opposed with Trinity, that's why you have, I do see some praise for her. I'm not going to say no one likes her, but you don't have like the Wonder Woman fan base.
I think they like her potential more than they actually like the execution.
Well, still, there are a growing number of Wonder Woman fans that are more like, let's see what another writer does. Because again, because if they can retcon out the Steve part of the origin and then write her as an actually good, like, nice character and stuff, yeah, I think they can actually do this.
Exactly.
They can say, and plus, here's the thing: as a baby,
get someone like Adams.
Oh, Adams can rehabilitate the whole damn Wonder Woman run. I have total faith in that man. But the thing is, it's like, here's the advantage of where DC is at with Trinity as opposed to Jon. With Trinity, she's a baby, so she can literally turn into anything she wants. Or just don't reference her.
Or even the toddler version.
Or just don't reference her at all, and then just pretend she never existed. Either way, it's early enough where you do not have to deal with anything.
Exactly.
You don't have to. You can, but you don't have to. Where with Jon, you kind of have to deal with this.
You do.
Even when he first showed up, because he's like a kid. But the thing is, here's how they should have done this. Okay, so we point out the issues, Robert, and as you know, with Comics League, we like to provide solutions. So how would we handle Jon? Now,
here's the thing, though. I don't think there's much you really need.
By the way, NJ brings up a good point. Trinity should be made of Diana's blood and clay.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say, though, Jon, here's the funny thing is, I don't think you really need to change much. Maybe, aside from maybe getting rid of Jay, just because everything about Jay is just so anathema to Jon.
Well, even beyond that plot line has lived out its usefulness.
Oh, yeah, I think that's why they're phasing it out.
Yeah, and that's why they're pushing with Dreamer, because they have good chemistry, and it's like Dreamer's a much more pleasant character than Jay Nakamura.
Yep, definitely.
Now, and again, I want to bring this up because someone in the comments may put this in, that if they de-age Jon, it doesn't mean if they break up Jay and Jon, it doesn't mean they're going to de-age him.
Exactly.
I'm going to burst your bubble right now. I'm about 99.9% sure that Jon will stay an adult for the rest of his existence as a character, unless DC does a reboot with they didn't even have to do a hard reboot. They could do like a reboot to like 5 or 10 years in the where it starts and the characters have existed for 5 to 10 years and Jon is a kid. That they could do that. They're not at that point anymore. And Robert and I have had this conversation where they need a reboot.
Yep.
They're not. So it's not good. So I just want to be clear on this. Now the way I would handle Jon from the very beginning, I'm saying from the very beginning, how would we have if we were in there from the very beginning? Don't age him up.
Yep.
Or let him be a kid for like a couple more years if you need to. What you could do is I would still cancel the Super Sons book for time.
And give it a chance to give it an event to launch the spring off of.
What I would do is build up Jon more as a Superman. You could do a book called Superman and Son, which is a team up between Superman and Jon, and it's them like Batman and Robin is now with PKJ, and then you do that. Then you build up Jon's character. Then maybe you can relaunch the Super Sons book when you built up Jon because Damian has already been built up. By the way, Angie says Lizzie has a way better chance than Jon to be saved, as you said, because she's a big. Well, yeah, exactly. She is the easiest character to save.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Like I said, Jon, the way he currently stands, I don't think he's irredeemable either, though.
No, he's not.
Because here's what I would do to change.
Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't get a chance to finish.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. One, get rid of Jay. Jay, like I said, represents too much of a problem.
Yeah.
Because of his past and his personality. But then now, I say go with the dreamer thing. She's a much better, healthier person to have him together with. I say then give him a different name, like I know they're saying Super Sons, but I would say Super Lad or something.
Or Scion.
Or something like that. And I say go along with what Taylor said up to a point. Have it be that he's the more peaceful solution to than even Clark is.
Yeah. By the way, Tavia brings up, will Tom King allow Trinity to be saved? It's not his decision.
Yeah.
Because if he's off the book, he has no say. They may consider his plot points, but it's not like they have to consult. It's not like with the Wonder Woman contract where they have to consult the Marstons.
Yep. Now, I gotta say, Nemo. No. I don't think the Super Sun should be once in a 4-year event.
No.
That's way too long. That's way too long.
What I'm saying is cancel it. Just give it like a couple of months. You don't even have to give it a year just to build up Jon's character on his own. Then you can relaunch it.
Exactly.
At least try it. Now, if it turns out the concept of the Super Sons just doesn't sell well, or if it keeps selling less and less every time you do this, then you have to say, maybe we just don't do a Super Sons book.
Yeah, but again, there's clearly something there still.
And what you could do, age up a little bit. In other words, like time jump a little bit. And put them on the Titans or Young Justice.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what you do. You can put them on there with Damian.
You know, I would have loved to have seen Jon properly interact with characters like Crush or who's the fat kid?
Bouncing Boy or something like that?
No, not Bouncing Boy, but something like that.
Oh, I know you were talking about, but yeah, essentially
that's even the way him interacting with Jin.
Yeah, exactly. There's any number of teams that they could have worked with, but then you get to all right. The other thing that I would do if I were in charge of this, so you could still do an age up. In other words, time jump everyone like 2 years or 3 years to put them on the Titans. And then keep him there. He will be like 13, 14 for like the existence of this continuity per se. And but should Jon have his own rogues gallery technically from the I mean, technically he has one already. I mean,
not counting holdovers from Wildstorm.
Wildstorm. Why does Jon have rogues from Wildstorm?
That was who he had dealt with in his run.
Oh yeah. I would say
But yeah, he should actually get his own rogues. I think he should. They never done that. That's the other thing is he doesn't have anything like that. I mean, Connor got some rogues.
What you could do is have him fight like the Bruno Mannheims and such, and make him. You could characterize him like the Action Comics #1 Superman, like the champion of the oppressed, if you will, kind of like Clark was in Grant Morrison's run. And then, go ahead.
I would think that was one of the few things I think Tyler was on the right track for.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that? Like giving him something to make him more stand out.
But don't go but don't do covers where he's like protesting climate change while a Kraken's attacking. That's the stupidest thing.
Even though that never happened in the book.
Yeah, but it's still a stupid cover.
Agreed. I agreed it was stupid.
But and I'm like, here's the thing: don't have him protest like stuff that could easily be solved by like a character snapping their fingers, because that's literally how you solve climate change in the DC universe.
Yep.
I'm like, that doesn't work.
Or that one sign saying there is no Earth 2 was like, there literally is.
Now, the other thing that I would do, because he is half human, play into that. Like maybe he's slightly weaker than Clark, and maybe like he doesn't have all of Clark's powers, or maybe he has powers that Clark doesn't have because of like the mixture of human DNA. Like you can give him the solar flare.
Yeah, which he had. We already know he has it.
Which he has, but I'm saying give him more unique power. You can have some variations of like Clark. Obviously, give him the basic powers, which is flight, strength, maybe a little bit of speed, maybe heat vision, but make him slightly weaker, because that way you can emphasize that's one of the reasons why he always tries specifically to go for a more peaceful solution.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's why I said earlier. Yeah, that's exactly what he would do. I say he does it even more than Clark does.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go with that.
If you ask me, he who should not be named should have emphasized that more about. Like have it be that he really was the one who pushed, did more to bring about the Legion of Superheroes than just suggesting it, and then Clark did all the work.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Clark,
that still bothers me. He did nothing more than just suggest it, and then Clark did everything
speaking of Clark. See, here's the other thing. So here was my issue, and I made a video about this years ago, when Taylor he basically said that Jon is more of a superhero than his father because he seeks out the peaceful solution. I'm like, don't compare him to Superman. You could say he's a superhero because he's a pacifist and stuff, and he tries to do that. That's fine. But don't say he's a better superhero than Clark. That's my issue. When you try and make like your OC, I know he's not Taylor's OC, but this version kind of is. When you try and make that your version of the character like the greatest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. He must not be named, and Taylor suggests he's stronger than Clark through Batman. I'm like, no.
I think Batman was just saying to be nice.
By the way, the other thing, I love where Batman is saying, don't trust Jay, and Jonathan Kent is like, oh, but they're in love and stuff. And I'm like, I think you should trust Batman.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. See, I it's kind of funny, Robert. I kept trying to pick up that Jon book and see what it was about, because it interested me, because I'm like, okay, this is actually really cool. Because Clark is gone, so someone else has to be Superman. The thing is, yes, they were a little few and far between, but all these other things, I kept seeing this, and I'm like, I don't want to read this.
Agreed.
And again, now, will I say that I enjoy Jon as a character now? I would say, because here's the thing. He's not going anywhere. So in the scenario we're in now, I tolerate him. Let me put it to you this way.
Yep.
I think he has a lot of potential as a character. I love his costume he has now in the Sinister Six book, the armor. I think that looks really cool. And I like how they're trying to give him more of a different identity than Clark, so that works. And I really think that he has potential there. Now, do I think DC will live up to the potential? It depends, because DC does do this less than Marvel, where they set up something great and then screw it up.
Yep.
So I want to emphasize this: less than Marvel, because DC still makes better decisions than Marvel.
Hey, they've done better revealing characters to be queer than Marvel has.
Oh yeah.
Marvel just flips, they treat it like it's a flip switch, a switch flip.
Yeah, remember? Oh, Bobby, you're gay, and I'm like,
you're gay. No, I like the ladies. You're gay.
Now what I want to do, let's make our own younger Justice League. Like, let's say 5G did happen and we could choose the league. We don't have to do like the Justice Legion or whatever they were going to do.
Right.
So who would be on this league? Now, instead of Yara, I say Cassie.
Yeah, but I would say that, but I would still want to keep Yara to a point because I do like her as that middle ground generation.
Yeah, I would say so. You could still have her around. I'm not saying get rid of the character, but I'm saying on the new Justice League.
Oh, yeah. Cassie would have earned that well ahead of time.
She's earned that. I would have said Donna, but you know what? Cassie deserves a little help. And plus, I want someone to keep saying...
been on the league already before New 52.
Yes, and I want the league to have someone say secret entrance and secret exit whenever they go in there.
Secret entrance, secret exit.
I could see Cassie every time she goes to a boom tube, she just goes boom.
Yep.
That would be so great. So John, Cassie, Damian instead of Jace, because I'm sorry, that concept was doomed from the start.
Mm-hmm. Dreamer. Okay. Jessica Cruz. Mm-hmm.
She should probably be older, but assuming that.
No, Teen Lantern.
Teen Lantern. Yeah. Instead of Joe, just go with Teen Lantern. Keep her in the forest sector.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you put as a Flash? Tevia says Wally's kids, but no, which? Because we're only picking one. Irie, okay. We're only doing one. We're not doing...
We already seen Irie's going to be a Flash in the future.
Yeah, and I refuse to have multiple speedsters, Tevia.
Yeah.
By the way, NJ says Yara is a better choice because Cassie at least has Young Justice to lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, MG would be much older than the others by that point.
What should happen to Jace Fox? We ever do a Shimon Black and different ethnic cures? For one, Nemo, Britt and I did that. I will pull up. I will tell you which episode number that is of Super Wonder. But for Jace Fox, I really think just shelve the character.
He needs a bigger overhaul than even John and Trinity.
Yeah, exactly. He's just not that interesting of a character.
He's toxic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So the episode where Britt and I talked about black characters is... Let me pull that up. And we're not going to do it on every ethnicity characters because that just gets confusing.
That gets out of control.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. I'm sorry. We did the black one, but what do you think? What do you got? No. That got retconned out real easy.
Mm-hmm.
That got retconned. And for those of you that are listening to the audio, Julian asked about what we thought about the Grant Morrison origin for Damian, where Batman was sexually assaulted by
there was a whole lot of miscommunications there.
Yeah, I hate it. That's all I'll say there. I really dislike it.
No, I would say though, I actually didn't mind the idea for the New 52 thing anyway, that Talia never fully carried Damian. That it was a clone thing.
Yeah, that's fine, but I'm saying in terms of these of the essaying, I'm like, no. By the way, the episode on Black Heroes is episode 79 of Super Wonder Legacy, if you guys want to check that out.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of like where John goes now, well, actually, in terms of the league, I say, and you can make the villain be like Lex Luthor's daughter, maybe, or something like that.
No. Well, yeah, Lena.
Yeah, make it be Lena Luthor. There you go. You're done.
Because I like her. I'm glad that Williamson brought her back. She has not been seen since Our World at War.
And I didn't know it was that far back.
Yeah, that was the last time we ever saw her, period.
Yeah, because
it was even up in the air if she still existed after Infinite Crisis.
And then also Flashpoint. So it's like, yeah, is she still a thing?
I'm just saying, let alone Flashpoint.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of like where do we think John now? Where do you think they're gonna go with John in the future, or where would you like them to go?
Currently?
Yeah.
Well, again, like I said, pair him up with Dreamer for one.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, I think that's the thing. I think John is not needing that much fixing. I want to make that clear. I really do not think he needs as much fixing as people think.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he needs good stories, good writing. I'm curious what they're doing with the secret sex thing. But here's the other thing about John. He doesn't need prominence. He doesn't need to be the center of everything. Look at Connor. He's not the center of everything.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's what people have to understand. John is not like the center of the DC universe that some fans try and make him out to be. He's just not. He's just not. So
no, Nightwing is still more the heart of the DC universe.
Yeah, exactly. Could he become that in the future? Maybe, but he's just not.
But he has to earn it. Look, Dick earned it.
Yeah, he definitely did.
It took over almost 70, I won't say the whole 70, 80 years, but it definitely took at least 40 or decades. It took decades.
Yeah, we'll say that. That's fair. But it's like he's not at that point, and then it's like not every DC event has to deal with John, or he does, because here's the thing, he's not even Superman anymore, so he doesn't even have that one.
Exactly.
But it's like, what I think they need to do is yes, I agree with you. He doesn't need to be prominent. I think what they need to do, it's the same thing I recommend when dealing with Wonder Woman. Give him good stories that are uniquely his and not just because here's the problem with John. A lot of his stories, you could just pluck him out, put Clark in, same result.
Mostly, yes.
Mostly. Not all of them, mostly. But you need to give him more uniquely John stories in order for him to stand out as a character, because otherwise, again, he is just discount Superman. And,
exactly.
Yeah, and we talked about that, make him more of like the Grant Morrison new 52 era, where he's like the champion of the oppressed, because that way, here's what you could do. Oh my gosh, here's what they do. The characterization they give John is new 52 Superman, because but younger. Because what you could do with that, Robert, you could honestly homage that era of Superman, where that's a way of having both Supermen in the same universe, but not interfering with anything.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Of the Superman iterations that would fit John's characterization, it is the Grant Morrison one.
Yep. Now, I can tell you this. One version we definitely would never want him to be is Son of Superman.
No.
Remember when we went over that?
I like that Elseworld story. If they lose me
until the end.
The ending when they say where the Justice Leaguers are, I'm like,
you had Martian Manhunter be deported to Mars when he's the only one there.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? Batman becomes a congressman for the Democrats, and I'm like, that ain't happening. He's a billionaire, and
apolitical.
Yeah, exactly. Wonder Woman's evil in that.
Manipulates events and everything with Lana and Pete Ross.
Yeah, I know, and I'm just like, what the hell? Why is another Elseworlds Wonder Woman evil?
And then that version of John was irrelevant after the halfway mark.
Yeah, exactly. It turned into, okay, so we just had John just so we can get to Clark.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys, come on. It doesn't work out that well for you guys. And honestly, again, it's not fair. But anyway, you give him good stories, because then what you end up doing is you what's the word? Because I didn't get the story either. Again, it's good up until the end. Once it gets to that ending, I'm like,
and it's one of those endings that taints the whole story.
It really does, because now whenever I think of that story, I'm like, oh
The ending,
God.
because that's what it led up to.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay. I'm not really that into this, but then you get to the other place that I think it's the other thing I think they need to do with Jon is yes, give him. So I think Dreamer could be as Lois, even more so because she's not lame. But I'm sorry, but yeah, you give him his obviously we talked about you give him his own supporting cast as well, like.
I do not see Yar working in this current timeline. I do not see him and Yar working.
No, that really only worked in the future state timeline, I think.
Because we didn't. It was one of those cases where we just jumped. We don't have any buildup.
Mm-hmm.
Even then, I saw more as friends than lovers.
Yeah, regardless, but it's like, and the other thing that I think they really need to do, move him out of Metropolis, give him his own place to like protect.
Yep.
Heavier, they're not going to give him Kathy. Why would they give him Kathy when she's significantly younger?
She's still a kid, dude. She's still a kid.
Would it be better? Yes, and that's the other thing,
yes,
Julian.
Exactly.
Give him his own man. Don't call him Superman, because that really failed. That's the part I think.
I wouldn't say it failed more than it served its purpose. It served its purpose.
Once Superman came back from Warworld, there was no reason to call him Superman.
Yeah, like I said, it served its purpose. That's more what I would say than saying it failed.
Yeah, exactly. But I would say you could call him Scion, or I would say call him Super Son, but that does sound kind of lame.
Well, Super Lad.
Still, it seems kind of degrading if you call him Super Lad.
True. I'm just saying because there was that during Superman Batman, Lope's final arc, when they met a gender bent version, Supergirl was Super Lad.
It would be hilarious if they call him like Superman Jr., like in that other Elseworld story.
Well, yeah. Well, that was more just an alternate Earth in general, not before Elseworlds.
Mm-hmm. But so let's go with that. So and really, I mean, they already gave him a unique costume with the armor. I would keep that armor.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of New 52.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. And plus, it makes him different from Clark. Because here's the other thing: depending on the artist, and this is not a Jon issue. Gentle Super NJ. Here's the problem. It's not really an issue with Jon. You need to make him look different from Clark, like really different, because sometimes the way Dan Mora draws Superman, he looks like Jon.
No, Julie, no, that wouldn't work.
No, that would be hilarious, but they're not going to do that.
But here's something else. I had a thought on. I don't want to lose it.
All good.
Don't you hate it when you have something and you're just now trying to you're fumbling it around in your brain?
Yeah, exactly. I do hate that.
Oh yeah. One thing I think a writer really needs to do, and I really thought they were going to do this in Absolute Power, but they didn't. They do truly need to resolve and all the emotional baggage he clearly still has.
Oh yeah,
someone needs to finally do that.
Well, here's how you do that. Have Dreamer go into his dreams and like unlock that trauma that he's been like repressing. You can make that part of his thing.
I thought they were going to do that in Absolute Power. I truly thought they were.
Because they set that up. That's the thing. They really set that up.
And they teased it.
Yeah, but that's what you do. You set that up. Maybe that's how like Dreamer and him get together. She helps him through that trauma.
I mean, they definitely have that set up already.
Yeah, and then there you go. She goes into his mind, and you discover you make it so the reason why they never touched on it is because Jon's been repressing it. Like maybe he's like keeping it bottled up. It unleashes, and it's like Dreamer has to help him through that, and then through that, Dreamer and him fall in love, and they get together.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, yes, they did try that with Ultraman, and it failed. It failed hard.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely did that, but
Granted, yeah, he beat him, but then the guy got his neck snapped.
Yeah, that was the stupidest thing. I'm like, you set that up so well. And that was the biggest rug pull I have ever seen in modern comics.
Yeah, they hyped it up big time, and then womp womp.
Just a neck snap. And then they did it literally again with Injustice Superman.
But it was just a hug.
Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. I'm like,
I don't get the hug part.
Here's why you can't use Injustice Superman. Why did Injustice Superman mention dealing with like an alternate version of himself?
I'm positive that's supposed to be a case of they changed history there.
Or maybe that's not like the Injustice universe.
That's what I'm thinking. It was supposed to be a parallel one.
Yeah,
like
because
close enough.
Because here's the thing. If that were because by that logic, and the Injustice universe was blown up in Convergence.
Yeah. Which
so
we know, and the just imagine. Well, to be fair, the multiverse is always repairing itself. Always.
Yeah,
that's why you keep on having different Ultramen show up.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So the way I see it is, and plus we already seen there's different variations of the alternate ending, so it could be whatever version.
True that. But still, I'm like, but still, again, I'm like,
but the fact is, we don't even know what happened to that world afterwards.
Yeah, but it's like, if ever there was a double, I've never seen a double rug pull one after the other before that story. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, you could salvage this. You could salvage what? He's hugging him.
And the other thing is, as far as we know, Bruce and Harley are about to be executed.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like,
and they don't get that resolved. We don't even see them escape.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Are we supposed to assume that because he's Batman, he escapes? And in which case, that's BS.
Yeah.
I'm just like, bro, you literally could have salvaged this.
And you know one thing that could have come from that book? They could have taken out him meeting up the version of Jay from that world for no reason.
Yeah, why are you doing that? I don't understand that. It's one of those, again, that was one of the biggest wasted opportunities to do some cool stuff. Because that's what I thought.
I have a feeling it was truncated. I have a feeling it was you know what I think? I think those issues were meant to be the next issue of the ongoing, and he had to rush it to wrap it up.
Yeah, because here's the thing. And that's the other thing that I forgot to mention is that originally the Jon series was gonna be an ongoing, but they shortened it because of low sales and backlash.
And I'm positive that all this stuff here was meant to be the next issues.
Because again, yeah, and that's cool. But then again, it's like you have the time. Stop fleshing out Jay and instead do this.
That's the unfortunate thing. Jay became Taylor's pet character.
Yeah, it became his OC. Because here's the thing: you could have had it where like Jon resolves injustice. Now, not the injustice like for the games, but an injustice universe
somewhere out there in the world.
Yeah, he made because that's how you show Jon being like a pacifist, and he because here's the thing. Can you imagine what a mind F that is for that Superman to meet like Lois's kid?
Him and Lois's kid, the kid they never had.
Yeah, exactly. That can talk because that again, the Injustice animated movie did this where Lois comes out and talks him down. I could see Jon doing that for that Superman.
I did like how Jay was torn initially.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that.
But it's like no, you don't do that. You just essentially throw away that opportunity.
Yeah, what?
But it's one of those things where I'm reading that, or when I was reading that, I was like, okay, you got it. Oh, come on,
you
bro.
Fumble.
Yeah, it's a severe fumble, and you know what? Taylor deserved to be kicked off the book because of that. Really,
I kind of agree to a point.
Because I'm like, you could have salvaged that dramatically, and made it like so dope.
Yep.
No.
But nope, you had to be up your own butt.
But regardless, but I think that's a good place to leave it. Now, the thing is, it's like Jon. It's now the part that I want to leave you guys with. Jon is not an irredeemable character, and arguably they're doing some cool stuff with him. So Jon is.
Oh, what does I want to say we should do?
Yeah.
Tone back the bi-ness, the queerness. Tone it back,
or make him less stereotypical.
Well, at least when other writers are handling it.
Yeah, or at least check other writers, because that's the problem with when they have characters come out of the closet, is they make them the most offensively stereotypical.
Again, Dreamers prove that's not the case.
Yeah, like here's a good example of when the big two do that and it harms the character. Bobby Drake.
Oh, you mean oh boy, I was going to never mind. I was about to say something a bit more derogative. I stopped myself.
No, but the point is they made him too much of the
flamboyant.
really too. And I'm like, you realize they were hyper masculine gay guys. They exist.
And now that they also had him be so interested in just being gay that he had a Tinder date at Black Widow's funeral.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm
never going to forget. I'm never going to drop that. I am never going to drop that.
Nor should you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you saw that Wonder Woman 20 where Alfred makes out with Batman? That's just Tom King wanting to worship Batman again because he forgot he's writing a Wonder Woman issue. And we'll talk about that on CLD tomorrow, NJ, so hang on to that. But in terms of Comics League content, I have Wonder Woman Wednesday where I talk about how to make a good Wonder Woman Elseworld story. So you have that. Mm-hmm. And then in terms of obviously Super Wonder Legacy, we have last week's episode where Britt and I talk about our favorite Wonder Woman stories. This week, oh boy, be prepared for us to talk about Screwed Up Editorial, because we're going to compare Superman Wonder Woman's relationship to Peter Parker and MJ.
Oh no.
Oh boy. Be prepared for us. If you thought DC was petty with Super Wonder, oh my god. Oh man, be prepared for that. Oh boy. And for movie night, we're going to be talking about Green Lantern, Beware My Power. So that was Robert's pick. That's a good one.
No, that wasn't my pick. That was Jay Heath's pick.
Actually, I'm sorry. That was Taladia's pick. I'm sorry.
Taladia's pick. Sorry, that was Taladia's
I'm confused.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing Batman Return to Cape Crusader.
That works. They're reviving Gwen Stacy. I know.
We know.
We already talked about that. But in terms of Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm still thinking about what I want to do for that. How about you, Robert? And Robert's links are in the description.
Yeah, exactly. My links are down there. Jared and I have just started with the PTNs going over Trinity. Not that one.
Yeah. That's such a good joke we do, man.
Yep. And it's going to get worse.
It's going to get really worse.
Yep, we're going to keep escalating it.
Oh, and by the way, I'm going to be on Weird Science, obviously, and Jim and I are going to be talking about Wonder Woman 170. We're going to be talking about a classic Wonder Woman issue.
Nice.
For fun. It's the one where it's a day in the life when Wonder Woman and Lois Lane go do like a day in the life. And we're going to talk about why that's my favorite Wonder Woman single issue of all time.
Oh.
It really is. So even though it includes Lois and has some moments where I still think are BS, it still is great because it gets down. I'll give you a preview. It basically gets down to who Diana is as a person, as opposed to being a warrior.
People consider that one of the best Wonder Woman issues of all time.
Yeah, it 100% is. That like breaks down in 22 pages, or like however long that issue is, who Diana is as a person.
And that's why people love. Was that Jimenez or Rucka?
It's Jimenez.
That's what I thought.
Now, my only two parts I don't like about that is obviously the characterization of Lois there, but also the thirsting over Trevor Barnes. Besides that, it's solid.
Yep.
It's solid, like really, really dope. In fact, you know, it's kind of funny. Both of my favorite issues of Wonder Woman are Jimenez issues. My other favorite is 175, where you see Superman break down and Diana's holding him saying, "We will get through this."
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
That summarizes Diana and Clark's relationship, platonic or romantic, to a T.
Yes, that I can agree with.
To a T, because whether or not she's his girlfriend or just his best friend, Diana has always been that shoulder for Clark to cry on.
Yes.
And he has been that for her as well. So
when Hippolyta died.
Yeah, exactly. 110, and they've shown that in the comics, and that's why those two are collectively my favorite Wonder Woman issues of all time. And if you want to know who Diana is as a person and summarize in one panel, as a matter of fact, what Diana is, by the way, it's not a nymph, because King confirmed that that's Aphrodite when he said totally unauthorized look, and here in this page, Bruce meets Aphrodite. That's what he said. Oh, and then also in this issue, King basically revealed, I think it's like in an interview or something like that, Hippolyta slept with Ares.
What?
Oh, he wants the Wonder people to sleep with the bad boys.
What are you trying to say? It's genetic for Diana?
Yeah. Or like he wants Diana, he wants the Wonder people to be with the War people. Anyway, Robert and I have to get going. Stay O'Rourke, everyone. Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zoe is a Maximat for life. See you later. We are the Comics League. Bye-bye.